welcome back to my channel, and thank you for stopping by if you're new. I'm gonna tell y'all what I think is probably the best book of 2023. In my opinion, the best book that I've read in 2023. So let's just get straight into it. If you watch my previous video, you heard me mention that there was a certain book, like I was already contemplating starting a BookTube channel, but there was a certain book that kind of pushed me over the edge. And today I'm going to talk about that book. That's today. And that book is The Reformatory by Tananarive Due, and it is so good. This was actually my first book that I've read from her, and I honestly don't feel like after reading some of the plots and stuff and summaries from some of her other books, I don't think they would hit as hard for me as this one did. But yeah, let's get into it. This book is inspired by the Dozier School for Boys in Marianna, Florida. And they have a really sordid, tragic history. First of all, my first time hearing about the Dozier School for Boys was when I read Colson Whitehead's The Nickel Boys. And I saw this one recommended on Instagram, and I read it and I fell in love with it. Like after I read this book, I did a deep dive on the Dozier School for Boys, and I just had to learn. Like, I'm a history buff. Like, I love history, whether it's good, bad, whatever. I love reading about history. So I did a deep dive on the Dozier School for Boys. Now, recently, I started getting the itch to reread this book just because it was so good. But I got an email from Goodreads, I believe, and this book was on one of the new release type emails, or what's new, what's coming, whatever. And immediately when I saw that it was inspired by the Dozier School for Boys, I immediately added it to my cart and pre-ordered it because it was a pre-order. And I had to wait almost like a full month before I even got the book. But let me tell you that it was so worth the wait. So worth the wait. This is by a Black author, and it's written from the Black perspective of a Black family with a son, a brother, a nephew, a godson, who is sent to the Reformatory, which is based on the Dozier School for Boys. And while this book is inspired by that time, that place, those events that took place, this is a complete work of fiction. Although the main character who is in the Reformatory is an actual person who was related to the author of this book, which made it even more sad. And I'm the type of person, I love historical fictions, I love history, and for some reason, I'm drawn to things from the Jim Crow era, whether there's documentaries, books, movies, shows. Like, I'm drawn to those things, and I don't know why, I just am. So this book was so good to me, like so yummy to me. And it's like, there's a lot of words. You see how thick it is? I think it was like 565 pages, 43 chapters. So it was a lot. And at first, with the detailed descriptions of everything, I felt like this is so unnecessary. Like, you don't have to tell us all this. But it all weaved in and played a good part because it brought the characters to life. It brought the setting to life. I felt like I was there every step of the way. So all of those words, make sure you read it all. Because like when you see all these detailed and long descriptions, you're like, we can do without that. But read it, because it's what drew me deeper into this book and made me feel like I was there. Like, I felt every emotion that I was supposed to feel. I fell in love with the characters. I felt like I knew the characters, like we were related somehow. So definitely read every single word. It took me a while to read this book. Now, I'm a fast reader. I can read a book in a day, less than 24 hours. But it took me a while to read this book, and it only took me a while to read it because I kept putting it down and picking it back up. I was putting it down because the subject matter was so heavy, and I would pick it right back up, like literally maybe a minute or two later, pick it right back up because it was just that good. And I needed to see what happened. I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of go to the last page and skim because my anxiety was so high, y'all. Like, my anxiety was so high when I was reading this. I did go to the last page and I read the last page. So it kind of gave me, like a little sense of relief so I could keep going, because if it was going to end bad, I had to be prepared. Like, for real, I had to be prepared. So I did skip to the end, but it was worth it. I did continue to read it, and it did still have me on the edge of my seat anyway. It was so good. I really feel like this is top 3 best books I've ever read. And I've read a lot of books, but I think this is top 3, if not number 1, hitting the number 1 spot right now. for now, you know. So yeah, and like I said, I want to also talk about this Colson Whitehead, the Nickel Boys book, the one that actually introduced me to the Dozier School for Boys. And it's crazy that you don't really know these types of histories. And I lived in Florida for at least 4 or 5 years. I lived in Florida and I never heard of that school until I read this book. And after I finished reading this book, you know, I did some more Googling and I found out that this book was actually being turned into a movie. Like it's in it's in post production right now. And the crazy part is that some of the scenes were shot in a town that I lived in Louisiana. Like, I was like, what? Like, my jaw literally dropped. But yeah, I cannot wait for this movie to come out. And I think even more so, this one right here needs to be a movie. Like, this needs to be a movie, a show, something like a series, even if it's a limited series, you know, something that only lasts for like a season, so you can see the whole story in depth. Like, this needs to be a movie, a series, a something, because it was so freaking good. So good. Like, I'm tempted to reread it because it's that good. Like, and I just finished reading it like 2-3 days ago, and I'm tempted to reread it again already. It was that good. This is the best book of 2023 for me. And I've read some really good books, like some really good thrillers and whatnot this year, but this, nothing has topped this. Like, nothing that I've read this year can touch this book. So if you're looking for a good read, if you're into historical fiction, if you don't mind the subject matter, because it does get sad, it gets gruesome, it gets evil. It lets you see the evil of people, but it's a really, really well written book, and I would highly suggest it. Read this book. It is so good. I promise you, you will love it. You will not regret it. You will thank me, so you're welcome. Yeah. My battery's about to die again. Like, I don't know why my battery's on charge. But while we're talking about books and books that I've read and loved, I want to show you a couple of books in my TBR list. Black Cake and Out There Screaming. Now, this one I did start reading. I actually started reading it before the Reformatory, but I just could not get into it for some reason. Like, me and a friend of mine were talking about the show on Hulu that came out for this, and I said I wanted to read the book before I watch the series, and I just cannot get into it. Like, I'm on page 62, and that's where I've been stuck. And I got this before the Reformatory, and I read the Reformatory before I finished this one. And then I tried to skip and cheat, and I started watching the series anyway, and I couldn't get into the series either. So I don't know what it is, but I am going to attempt to finish this without watching the series. I'm going to try to finish it. I don't know when it'll happen, but it's in my TBR for now. And then I got this one, this Out There Screaming, an anthology of new Black horror, edited by Jordan Peele. And there are a bunch of short stories in here. So yeah, including one, I believe, by Tananarive Due, who wrote the Reformatory. So I'm going to get into this one as well. Oh, that's not it. So I just got this one the other day. I ordered it off of Amazon. It's called Your Blues Ain't Like Mine, and it's by B.B. Moore Campbell. And B.B. Moore Campbell is an author from like the early 90s. My mom used to read her. My battery's about to die, so please bear with me. And I wanted to read some of her books now that I'm grown. So I got this one to start with. And again, it is a historical fiction. It is based off of the murder of Emmett Till. So I'm going to read this one as well. I don't know which order I'm going to read these in, but I'm going to read them. Thank you so much for watching. My battery's about to die. I will see you in my next video. Bye.
I like to be educated, but I'm so frustrated.